Hi, welcome back. In one of my previous presentations I have said that some truth is in us and some is right in front of our noses. And today I will show you that. Today I will give you the proof for the existence of the spiritual world. You already know that proof, but you are hiding it, the proof, that truth, from yourself. The truth about spiritual world. People argue about that, and some say there is no spiritual world, and others say there is spiritual world, and they quarrel all the time between themselves. And some of them are asking themselves a question: does spiritual world influence us? If you have listened to the previous presentations, you know that even ideas which we have about the spiritual world are influencing us and our life. The map, the worldview we have, gives us ideas, desires, problems and solutions. What we imagine about the spiritual world is definitely influencing us. That's very important to realize. There are many views on the world, and we have to choose one, where the question about the spiritual world will be answered. That will not be your worldview, since you very likely don't know if spiritual world even exists. But there is one worldview which reveals us the truth. And when you will hear that, you will know it's the truth. Worldviews are like maps we are using. And on maps there are different kinds of information. So when you read map, you get some information, ideas. And if you want to know something, you search everywhere until you find it. And I have searched until I have found it. I have found the truth. Or the truth has found me. That would be more correct. The truth which is in us, but we are hiding it even from ourselves. Take a deep breath now. That truth is right in front of our noses. It is there where we would never search for. It is in the Bible. If you would read the whole Bible, you would know that there is a spiritual world. And if you have read it, and you are saying to me that you don't know if the spiritual world exists or not, I can say to you only one thing. Something is seriously wrong with your mind and with your heart. But don't be afraid, it can be corrected. I have also read Bible and didn't find there practically anything. We are the same. It is so obvious, but even though it is so obvious, it is hidden from us. Someone has to show it to you, and then you see it. Are you ready now? If you would read the whole Bible, you would read also the following sentence. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm carnal, sold under sin. What is this sentence saying to us? We know that the law is spiritual. What kind of idea is implanted in your mind when you read this sentence? Yes, there was a law which was given to Moses, that's one thing. That law is also spiritual. But there is also another law. When we observe our environment, we see that everything is under control, under the law. With the help of our intelligence, we recognize patterns. Water flows down, vapors go up. If we jump up, we fall down. Some force, some power is influencing us, and that's the law. And that thing is spiritual in nature. We cannot destroy that law. Let me tell you something about the law of gravity. I'm not speaking about the law of gravity which is used in physics, because that's not the real law, it's only an approximation of the real law. What physicists usually understand by the law of gravity is their imagination, what the real law of gravity should, according to them, look like. But that's only a map, an approximation, not the real law. Okay? Now, we cannot destroy gravity because it's not material. We can destroy a house, but we cannot destroy gravity. At least not with material means, things. Because gravity is spiritual. So there you have it. You know now that the spiritual world exists and that it influences us. Now, in your worldview, this question didn't have an answer, but in the biblical worldview, we have found the answer. That's a thing to remember. how this spiritual world looks like? That's another question. Religions are telling us how the spiritual world looks like, and they give us their maps. Whoever is describing how this world works, whoever is telling us something about the forces, powers, laws, is giving us a map of a spiritual world. In that way, it connects us with the spiritual world, with the imaginary one or with the real one. And therefore, that's a religion. The word religion comes from Latin, religare, means to connect. Religion is connecting you with some map of the spiritual world, with a map which could be right or wrong. And therefore, as I have already said in the presentation Basics 1, there is no such thing as irreligious worldview, even though people think there is. The idea which we have accepted is that science is not a religion. In schools, media, churches, temples, and I guess even in mosques, people hear all the time the following sentence: science versus religion, reason versus stupidity. So, because of that, in our minds, it is implanted the following idea, that the science is not a religion. We have been brainwashed. I was very shocked when I have realized that science is a religion. Today it's not popular to go against the religion of today, which is science, because in our minds there is implanted another idea, science versus religion, reason, intelligence versus stupidity. Therefore people think that you are stupid if you say something against science. They don't think about science, they just have faith in whatever scientists tell them. They don't want to be stupid and therefore they don't question the scientists. And moreover, people like nectar the science is giving them. I can show you the errors of science in a way that every scientist will agree with me. And you also, you will know that it's true. And you can call me stupid because of that if you want. And you might call yourself smart if you don't think and simply believe whatever you are told in school by scientists, religious persons. So science is a religion and it is lying to people that it is not a religion. That was the lie which tricked many people, even many scientists, and I was also tricked. A lot less people would be prepared to dedicate their life and be prepared to believe without questioning science if they would be told what I was told at secular university, that science is a dogmatic religion. Of course, professors didn't use those words, but what they have revealed to us was exactly that. Science is a dogmatic religion. That's the next thing I will show you. Scientists often say that they are against dogmatic religion, but they refuse to see that science is a dogmatic religion too. Tell people the truth, don't manipulate with them. Now, science does not know the real laws. It operates only with an approximations of the real laws. That's the first thing. People don't know and scientists usually don't want to tell them. And the second thing is, whatever we measure, we cannot measure it without an error. Let's say that scientists have measured a so-called constant, a parameter in their approximation of the real law. They did that with a finite precision. They can never ever say this is constant. We have proven it is constant. No, they can only say we have showed that this parameter didn't change in the last years for more than 1%, 0.1%, 0.01% and so on. Even if parameter is changing over time, we cannot know that because we cannot measure it with such a precision. Now the change might be gradual over time, but it could also be rapid. Let me give you another example. If we walk in desert, it is reasonable to assume that behind the next hill will be desert too, but we might be wrong. It could be sea there, or forest, or oasis. We cannot know because we are not there yet. And furthermore, we don't have map. And regarding laws, we also cannot know. We cannot know if gravity will stay constant or not in the future, because we are not there yet. We might assume, we might have faith, but it could easily happen that the gravity will change in the next billion of years, be it gradually or all of a sudden. There is just no way for science to know that. And what to speak about what will be in the next billions of years, we cannot know for the next second. Now, don't get me wrong, it's reasonable to assume that the gravity will stay more or less constant today and tomorrow. If you are building a house, you will assume that the gravity will stay the same. But if you are claiming that you know that it will be the same, then you are lying, because there is no way for you to know if you rely only on observed data, on a map which was built by you or by science. And the same is true for past times and for universe, space, place. Science didn't prove that parameters of its approximation of the real laws are really constants in time and space. Science will never ever be able to prove that. That is the faith of large part of today's science. And since you cannot prove that, it's a dogma. But since scientists are not prepared to call science a religion, they have invented another name for their dogma. It is called axiom. Laws don't change over time and in place. An axiom is a claim, generally accepted truth, but which might not be true. Majority of people are saying that, but scientists were almost always wrong, so why would they be right in this case? And above that, definition of an axiom in mathematics is basic proposition, assumed to be true. Assumed, imagined, believed. It is not verified and confirmed with an experiment. Therefore, it is not scientific, it is dogmatic, based on faith. Assumptions might be wrong. Foundation of large parts of today's science is therefore faith, dogmatic faith, imagination. And our imagination is very often wrong. People imagined, their opinion was that man will never be able to fly, but we have invented airplanes. People and scientists were wrong many times, but nevertheless, science is useful. Useful for what? What is the nectar we are getting from science and technology? Look at this, isn't that nice? Science and technology have promised us many things. Look at all wonders science and technology are capable to do. It is nice. Yes, it is nice if you don't want to think and to see. If we are not objective, if we cover up the truth, if we lie, then everything is nice. We have polluted hundreds and hundreds kilometers of coasts, and we don't want to see that. No. No. We like to look at photos of couple of hundreds meters of coast, which was either cleaned or the picture was shot in such a way that we cannot see small trashes. But if you don't want to see, if you don't want to think, then there is no problem and everything is great. If you don't want to see that with each problem which is solved by science and technology, we are getting 2, 3, 5, 10 or 100 or more new ones, then your faith in science will remain strong. And you can go along proudly saying to people, I'm a believer in science, I'm objective, I believe in reason, I'm telling the truth. And religions, they are lying and deceiving people, but we do not deceive people. Whatever you have said, it's a big lie. We have almost destroyed our planet and ourselves, but we don't want to see that, nor do we want to stop doing that. We just want to be positive. You are not positive if you refuse to see things as they are, because you are afraid and so negative that you don't believe in an existence of solution. So that's science. It's a religion, very dangerous one. It lies to us that it will give us many things, but it takes from us even more. Science works, as long as you don't think and as long as you don't want to accept the reality, the truth. But we like the nectar which science and technology is giving to us. All kinds of priests of different religions usually support science. Science tricked many people, but from the very beginning you could know you have been lied to. But you go along because you are, as I was and still I am to a certain degree, corrupted. You refuse to think, you don't want to see, you don't want to care for others, Your mind and heart are corrupted. You see only the nectar, and because of that you are cheated, if you realize that or not. Science, in order to survive, it has to feed itself with energy, which it gets from humans, from scientists, from their life. Scientists have dedicated their life to science, and at the end of their life, many of them are very, very disappointed. When I heard that at university, I have said to myself, I don't want that happens to me. What can I do that my work in science will not be misused? I have started to think about that, and there is practically no solution to this problem in the worldview of science. At the end of their life, very bright scientists were very disappointed. Why? Because they were deceived, tricked by the science and by themselves. They were very intelligent, but they had refused to think more deeply. Let me give you a couple of examples. 20 years ago, nanotechnology started to become popular. And whatever you could hear about nanotechnology was only and exclusively good things. We could make nanorobots to perform complicated surgeries in your body, scientists were telling us. That's great, but you know what? They didn't tell you that the same robots could be used, and they will be used, to kill everyone who doesn't agree with the people on the power, or to kill anyone who is not useful to them anymore. That's very dangerous, and science doesn't have a mechanism how to prevent this. But they don't think so deeply or negatively. They were only saying, we will use this only for good things. That's a little bit naive, isn't it? Nanotechnology could give us medicine, drugs, which will be made just for you. That's great, but using the same technology, we can make poison which will kill only you or your gender, race. But they don't speak about that, because if they would tell that to people, no one would give them money, people would not support them, so in order to survive they have to lie, and many times they deceive even themselves. Science and technology promised us to become our servants, but if we are objective, we see that the more we serve science and technology, the more enslaved we become. Science and technology are growing, causing us more and more problems, and we serve them even more and more. Instead of becoming our servants, they have become our masters. When science solves one problem, we get 2, 5, 10, 100 new ones, but we go alone. If we don't want to think, and if we don't care for our children, then everything is just fine. How does this work? Let's look at a couple of examples. Medical science is able to cure to some extent one person. We people have, with the help of science and technology, practically destroyed and polluted the whole planet and health of many people. More and more people have health problems. Thousands and thousands of people are sick because of technology, but science is able to some extent cure one person out of thousands and thousands, and they show that in media all the time. In that way, they change the reality. Reality is misrepresented. In our minds, it is therefore built a wrong map, wrong idea, that science is our friend and very useful. That is called lying wonder. Science is cheating us, but we like it. But they say, be positive, don't look at bad things, just believe in us, have faith. We went along for hundreds of years and we come to nowhere. We have wasted practically all the energy sources, polluted potable water, oceans, soil, food. But if you refuse to see that, then everything is just fine and you can still have strong faith in science. Let me tell you also this. Science always reveals its tricks when there is already too late for you, when you are already addicted. I could choose from many examples of history of science, but since I have already spoken about nanotechnology, let me continue with it. When I was in the third, fourth year of my studies of physics, I had to start to think for which field of physics will I specialize myself, where will I make my career. One option was of course nanotechnology. I have heard only good things about it and I have considered it a good option. I started to read a little bit more about it, and of course I wanted to know, how do we produce nanoparticles? And that repelled me from nanotechnology. At that time, and I suppose today is not so much different, even though there was done a huge progress in that field, at that time, when you have created a couple of nanoparticles which were useful, you created also a lot of particles which were not useful. In other words, trash, garbage. Some garbage was nano-garbage and some micro-garbage. Microparticles are extremely dangerous to our health. And then I have asked myself, if microparticles are so dangerous, how much more then could be dangerous nanoparticles, because they can mess up the processes which go on in our cells. They can interact with DNA, with everything, with processes which we don't understand yet and are furthermore not known to us yet. Because of that, I didn't want to dedicate my life to that field of science. And then, a couple of years passed, and I was shocked when I heard that nanoparticles could be bought in huge quantities in ordinary stores. You could impregnate your clothes with nanoparticles. I was shocked. I said to myself, this is not happening, it cannot be. This thing is so dangerous and people are putting it basically on their skin. Surely scientists, politicians, environmentalists will be against that. But they weren't. Nothing happened. And from that time on, we produce more and more nanoparticles, and no one cares. And then, a couple of years passed, and there was a seminar. That seminar was held by a scientist which I knew. That person was expert in the field of nanotechnology, and still is. And it was telling colleagues, scientists, how dangerous this technology is. How dangerous is for our health. Well, the stress was not on the health of people, but on the health of scientists and people who work in that field. I didn't listen to the seminar, I have only read what will be said there. And yes, the thing was that the regulation laws were not yet implemented. Laws which would regulate, cover safety at work, because nanotechnology is dangerous. That thing was a relief for me. I have said, okay, I was right once again, and they were wrong. Scientific community was wrong. It was a relief for me. Why? Because if you start to think with your own mind, you will not agree with the majority of people who do not think. And then you have to question yourself, am I sane or insane? Because if majority is sane, then I'm insane. But then after some time you can see that you were right, that you are sane. And today we wrap up even our food with nanomaterials. And nanoparticles can get in air, in water, in food, in our brains. Human brains were more or less protected against many harmful substances and influences, but nanoparticles can easily invade them. And now slowly, some research is going on which shows how dangerous that thing really is. It is still covered up. People don't want to hear about it, people don't want to pay for such kind of research. But nevertheless, scientific research was performed which have shown that some of those particles, they didn't investigate thousands of them, that some of those particles which were and are on the market may in very small quantities destroy bacteria. With that particular nanomaterial, you could impregnate your socks. But when the socks were washed, the nanomaterial got in water, and there it was toxic for bacteria. They call that unintended consequence. And there are many and will be many unintended consequences. Now, bacterium is a cell, and if something is killing some cells, you know what? Our body is made out of cells. And if something is toxic, if something causes such a mess in bacteria that they are destroyed, it is reasonable to assume that it can mess up also our cells to some extent. Surely it is not super healthy. And some research has been also performed which showed that another nanoparticles can mess up brains in animals. And they can do that in a very small quantity, concentration. 1 nanoparticle per million or 2 water molecules. How much time it is needed? Animals were exposed to nanoparticles couple of hours, days, and their brains were damaged. But we go along. Our ancestors have poisoned themselves with mercury and with other substances. For many of them, scientists have claimed that they were completely safe. One such example is poison DDT, which is still in our bodies and in the bodies of our children, even though we have stopped using it a long time ago. But let me continue with mercury. Mercury is a toxin which influences nervous system, brains. And there was an accident in a Japanese town, Minamata. People all of a sudden became ill. They had problems with practically everything. Children were also born with that disease. Many children were born deformed mentally and physically. Women gave birth to children which were either dead or seriously deformed. They didn't know what is going on. It was really a strange disease, and they called that disease Minamata disease. After some time, they figured it out that the cause of the disease is poisoning with mercury, which was accumulated in fish and shellfish. Nearby factory where some citizens of Minamata worked had released huge amounts of mercury into sea. Mercury was accumulated in fish and then also in people. People like to say, what you don't know and what you cannot see, it cannot hurt. But that was not the case in Minamata. If you think and if you can see the danger, you might be able to protect yourself. So if you ask me, it is always better to know, to think and to see. Many people lost their health, many people lost their mind, and all this happened very quickly. But we don't mind about that. We are poisoning ourselves and our children a little bit more slowly, but not so slowly as you might think. But sufficiently slow that we can lie to ourselves, oh, that's nothing. It's normal. People have more and more health problems. But we can drink alcohol and we can use other drugs. We call them also cures, which don't cure us, but they take us to a dreamland. We can also go lying to ourselves that our children are smarter and smarter. We like to hear that, but is it true? I have difficulties with such a claim, faith of yours, because if more and more people are exposed to more and more neurotoxins, we are producing thousands and thousands of neurotoxins, which destroy, damage more or less our brains and brains of our children. How can then we, as humanity, become smarter and smarter? Your faith is based on illusion with which science and technology are feeding you. But if you don't mind, I will tell you. Use your mind, start thinking, wake up. It is hard to open eyes in sunshine if you are living all your life in darkness. It hurts, I know. But if you don't wake up, if you will not open your eyes, it will hurt even more. But not only you, but the whole humanity. Our ancestors had a dream, and we are living their dreams. They dreamt about the future. We are living in that future. We are living their dreams now. And our children and children's children will live our dream. Will they? Will they be alive? Because pain, which we are causing to ourselves, be it by material pollution, poisoning, or by mental pollution, is already so great that we have to use huge quantities of drugs just to cover up our pain. Many people already cannot function without drugs, and false religions are more than ready to give you such drugs. Many people cannot function without drugs. I also couldn't. I had to drink at least some alcohol from time to time. I had to hurt others from time to time, at least with my tongue. But I don't need to do that anymore, and it is great. There is a way which leads into freedom and life, and there is a way which leads to dream world and death. It is true that we have more and more knowledge, but because of that we are not becoming smarter. What are we doing with that so-called knowledge? That's the question. According to faith of scientists, life on this planet has evolved for millions of years. One small change had led, according to them, to extinction of many species. And what are we doing? We are changing the planet with the unseen speed. Be it nanoparticles, be it DDT, be it nuclear waste, be it our messing up with genetic code, all those things will endanger life hundreds and hundred thousands of years in the future. Who will survive? Well, maybe microorganisms, but even they are in danger because of nanotechnology. But higher animals and plants, they mostly don't have a chance if we will not change our ways, or if we will not destroy ourselves in the near future, or if something will not stop us. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know where we are headed. Scientists are smart in developing more and more lethal, deadly toxins. Just a sound mind is needed to know, just a sound mind, what the most brilliant intelligentsia cannot comprehend. So we have seen on only a couple of examples, there are many more, that in order for science to grow and be strong, it has to fit itself with something, and that something are we. But scientists are so eager to convince others about superiority of science that they don't see anything bad in their doing. But they should, because in science, at least in physics, there is a principle which is called Heisenberg principle. Physicists apply that principle to almost everything. Principle is practically saying that you cannot have everything. There is a price to be paid for almost everything. For example, nanotechnology doesn't bring us only good things for free. There is a price to be paid, and if you are not willing to tell that to people, you manipulate them. You are deceiving them. You are familiar with Heisenberg principle, so you cannot defend yourself that you didn't know. Scientists believe in that principle, and they go against their own faith when they convince even themselves that with their invention humanity will get only good things. Just imagine how great will it be when we will build this and that using our technology. Imagine and have faith in us. Did we ever lie to you? Well, that doesn't count, does it? They say. And this nectar, riches, imagination has captured minds of practically all the people, mine too. But I'm free now, liberated. Rich people, they cannot enjoy when they see poor people. I was in India and it was so strange. On one side of a fence there was a dreamland for majority of people, and on the other extreme poverty and pollution, and this is true in every country. Rich people try not to think or to look at those poor people. They imagine how great it would be if all those white, yellow, black, red trash would be killed one day. And poor people? Their imagination is also captured by the same riches. And their dream? How great would it be if rich people, rich pigs, would die one day? But there is also another way, the way where our imagination is not captured but freed, when we can see in human beings and not trash and pigs. There is the way of life and love, where we don't need to lie to ourselves. You don't need to stop thinking. You don't need to stop seeing. It is the way where your intelligence and heart starts to work as they were intended to work. But in science, in our way of life, we have to stop thinking at some point. We have to cover up things which go against our faith. And then everything is fine for us, no problems. And now we will take a look at the third area where science is lying to us. And that is the thing which is mostly unknown to people. Even to us who have studied at secular university, professors had to tell us that many times, because we were brainwashed by media and society and in high schools. How and where does science get its ideas? People think that science gets its ideas using reason, intelligence. Scientist thinks and he gets an idea. But in many cases that was not the case. He had received the idea from somewhere. It was a matter of inspiration. Some ideas science has gotten from the Bible, and that is mostly covered up. What is more and more revealed to us is that many scientists were in altered state of mind, not using their own mind, but were more or less channelers for ideas which come from, well, they don't know and they don't care from where they come. They have opened themselves to other ideas using mystical methods, mystical techniques, which were and are used by many religions. And in some cases, they have just stolen ideas from mystics and claimed that it was their idea. Science, without those religious techniques, would never be what it is today. It is a secret alliance between ancient religions and science. Many such techniques were accepted in psychology, disguised as scientific techniques. They don't know how it works, why it works, they just know that it works. And it works. Does it? Empty your mind, don't think, imagine, sleep and just have faith. If that would be the only way, I would go along, and I went along, with science and with mysticism. But there is also another way, the way without lies, and its results are completely different. I'm so happy that I have successfully ended study of physics. Now I know that science doesn't know practically anything. If I would listen to someone who would try to explain to me that science is a big scam, I would not believe it. Such is the power of brainwashing. If you are saying this cannot be true, I understand you completely. It took me many years and research that I have rejected science and its lying wonders. But because I use reason, mind, intelligence, I cannot believe science anymore. I have written 2 books, around 1,000 pages altogether. I have exposed many lies in science and in religions. I had to check many things because that is so unbelievable, isn't it? Practically everyone is saying one thing and that's not the truth. It's unbelievable. The books are written in Slovenian language. They can be downloaded for free from my website. I don't have time nor sufficient knowledge of English to translate them. So if you don't speak Slovenian, you have only my lectures. So know that there are many more things. I haven't said everything in lectures. Now, let me be clear. Science is not using me anymore. It is I who use science, computer, internet, trying to tell you the truth that you might be liberated too. I don't need science for myself, nor I am attracted by its nectar anymore. I would love to live in a world without high technology, but here I am. But my eyes and intelligence and judgment are not blinded anymore because of its bribes. So that's it for today. Be well, till next time. Bye bye.